It's time for another UFO News Roundup, and we've got a lot to go over today, so get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments below. First off, from Deep Prasad, who himself is a really interesting guy, an experiencer, quantum computer guru. He says the former head of NOAA corroborates Lou Elizondo's statements about an unidentified submerged object in the ocean traveling 500 plus miles per hour, and that was bigger than an oil rig. And he's talking, of course, about Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who says, for my ocean science and technology colleagues, if this sounds too fantastic to be true, I can confirm it from other credible sources, and both the USS Maui and the USCG Bittersweet had similar encounters in the Pacific and Atlantic at the end of World War II. That's crazy, guys. They've been encountering giant UFOs or USOs, underwater craft, giant things bigger than an oil rig, since World War II. That's nuts, guys. We've got it from Lou that they've seen these things. Now we've got it from Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet. That pushes it even further. They go back to World War II, guys. I mean, maybe they've always been here, right? That's just fantastic. That's just fantastic. Meanwhile, also from Lou, or related to Lou, from Michelangelo, did Lou Elizondo corroborate Chris Mellon's signal exchange in his book Imminent? From Chris Mellon's alleged signal chat, we also know that a still highly classified memo by a secretary of the United States Air Force in the 1950s is still in effect to maintain the cover on UAPs. And from Chapter 13 of Lou's book, Imminent, Where the Evidence Lies, which I thought was a great chapter, a very important chapter, where Lou names names of organizations involved in the cover-up. Really great stuff. And I may have to make a separate video on that because I think it's so significant. But, okay, quoting from that chapter, we were told specifically that a defense contractor associated with the Legacy program was in possession of UAP materials of non-human origin made by some civilization from some distant planet. When Jay went to inquire for us, the contractor acknowledged that yes, they were in possession of this material. They said they would give us access to it, but first we needed to get permission from the Secretary of the U.S. Air Force. This was an important development. The contractor was acknowledging a long-standing memorandum generated by the Air Force, which made the contractor beholden to the Air Force's strict handling requirements. This provided that the Air Force indeed not only know about crash retrievals, but had historic control over them and leverage with this defense contractor and probably others. In the words of the contractor, after decades, they were no longer able to glean any meaningful understanding of the recovered material. But that's incredible, guys. That's incredible that the Air Force, who we all know is a huge player in all of this, that they control Area 51, right? Even though, of course, Lockheed Martin helped build it. Where does the private and the government, interest in all of this? Where's the edge? Where's the boundary of that? Of course, with those big contractors like Lockheed Martin and Boeing and Battelle, it's hard to know how much of it is private and how much of it is government. But that's an important question to ask because there does seem to be tension between the government aspects of it and the private aspects of it, as evidenced by the Lockheed Martin firefight with JSOC. And according to Ross, this has happened multiple times. And I think that's probably behind the push for eminent domain, is this tension between the private and public parts of it. So it's an interesting distinction, but there you go. Lou Elizondo seemingly confirming Chris Mellon's signal chat that the U.S. Air Force has been in the game and is a power player in the game since at least the 1950s. And of course they are. Meanwhile, this is pretty cool. Okay, so from Merck Von Ren Camp, 2 transmedium UAP incidents observed on the USS Omaha's radar the same night that the famous video was recorded. And he's talking about this video released by Jeremy Corbell, showing these anomalous objects on the radar where there was seemingly a swarm of UFOs around the Omaha that night. A really juicy encounter, an amazing find by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, because they're partners. Just incredible stuff. Love those guys. They have put out some good stuff. But apparently there was more going on that same night. As Merck Von Ren Camp says, 2 transmedium UAP incidents observed on Omaha's radar the same night that the famous video was recorded. 2 objects suddenly disappear from the radar. Any radar experts out there? Another transmedium incident occurred the same day. So he says they disappeared from radar. Does that mean they became visible on sonar? Did they go underwater? Did they just ripple out of existence? What happened to these objects? Yeah, like Merrick says, anybody that's familiar with this sort of technology, this radar technology and what we're looking at, if you can let us know what's happening, that'd be awesome. But yeah, these anomalous objects either going underwater, transmedium, as Merrick says, or just, becoming non-visible somehow or other. Just crazy stuff, crazy stuff. Okay, Pavel Ibarra-Amida, who I've become a big fan of, says, back in February, this video of an alleged UFO fleet was recorded in Carrillo, a town close to Buenos Aires, Argentina. What does UFO Twitter think? Now, I think this is really cool because it's so weird that as you get south of the border, they have fleets of UFOs. In the U.S., occasionally we'll see, more than one UFO at a time, but we don't typically get these fleets or flotillas of UFOs that they get in Mexico and South America. And sometimes they will see hundreds of craft in the sky at the same time. Look at that. Look at that. And this is not an isolated incident. This happens all the time down there. Well, not all the time. I'm not going to say it's a nightly event. But yeah, they see, not irregularly, these fleets of UFOs who don't seem to make any effort to make themselves invisible. I think if they wanted to make themselves invisible, if they didn't want to be seen, they probably wouldn't be seen. So is this a deliberate display? To me, it seems like it. And if so, it's really interesting that the phenomenon has chosen the peoples of Mexico and South America to make this display for. Why not us in America or Europe or Canada, right? But we all know that Mexico and South America are particular hotspots and a hub of this sort of activity. I mean, just look at the Nazca mummies. I mean, there were living beings there, and that we have their bodies that were interacting with the peoples of the time back in the day and might still be there. It's just amazing stuff, guys. But let me know what you think about the flotillas in Mexico in South America. Meanwhile, getting back to Lou, because this is just awesome that he's on CNN. I just can't tell you how happy it makes me to see Lou make the rounds on mainstream media and for them to ask him sincere, non-smirking questions.
Has been operating a decades-long, I got to read this, crash retrieval program for these UAP, that biological remains of non-human origin have been found. Are you telling me that aliens are real?
Well, what I'm saying, Laura, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. What I'm saying is that we have something that is made by non-humans. So whatever that means, right? We're talking about aliens in the vernacular sense, or are we talking about something that's been here all along?
You have written that the U.S.
Okay, been here all along. I think that's a really interesting point, or a really interesting idea that Lou is advancing here on CNN. He is putting forward the idea that these may not be simply aliens, and that they may have been on Earth all along. Does that mean they created us? At the very least, he's saying they may very well predate us here on Earth. And he's putting this out there on mainstream news. I don't know if that's true or not, if he's right on that, or if that idea is correct or not. But I think it might be. And the idea that he's putting this out there on mainstream news and she's not laughing him off the stage. Man, we have come so far. We have come so far, and it's all due to that man right there. I'll chastise him for the threat narrative stuff, but we owe so much to Lou, and now he is going even further than that. I love it. I love it. Meanwhile, what about free energy, guys? What about free energy? This is really interesting, okay? This commune, apparently, that has their own free energy. Is this the way of the future? Well, let's read what Vlad the Alien has to say here. If we want access to free energy devices without living in a totalitarian society, our only realistic option might be to create self-sufficient spiritual communities. I am not joking. The destructive potential of this technology is so immense that we either need to become completely benevolent or totalitarian to use it safely within any society. Very interesting distinction. And that's kind of what, what's his name, was saying the other day about angels and demons. The guy that's loosely affiliated with the Trump organization, who was saying, that they have so much power that either they're angels or they're demons. And Vlad is echoing something of that, saying that with this massive amount of energy that, free energy could produce, tapping into 0-point energy or whatever, you're going to need to be either totalitarian, locking that power down so it doesn't get out of control, or else you're going to need to be completely benevolent. I think that's a really interesting distinction, a really, really interesting idea. And I certainly hope it goes the non-totalitarian way. But he says, spiritual development is the missing element in modern science, and this lack keeps such technologies underground until the new world order can be achieved. If you're involved in the free energy movement, I strongly encourage you to consider this, as it will likely become a major obstacle. Curiously, such communities already exist. Mithernitha, I said that right, is an isolated spiritual community in Switzerland which claims to possess a free energy device called Testica. That's half the reason I wanted to read this to you, just so I could say Testica. Okay, but they claim they have a free energy device supposedly called Testica, and it looks like that crazy thing, and it does kind of look a little phallic there, doesn't it? It does kind of look a little phallic. It supposedly meets all their needs, and because they're isolated and self-sufficient, no one interferes with them. Ironically, this might be the only practical way to implement free energy in the current world, starting with small spiritual communities and gradually expanding them, essentially creating a breakaway civilization. To truly progress, we need to marry science and spirituality. Without this union, the only alternative is a future where we're chipped and monitored 24/7. Which way, the free energy man? So I think that's a really interesting point, and I like a lot of what he's saying here. And obviously, I'm going to root for the small communities and the spiritual connection, but at the same time having high technology and free energy. I think that's a beautiful paradigm for civilization. A bunch of elves living in Rivendell, but with fancy technology, right? That'd be pretty sweet. I could be down with that. In fact, I'm totally down with that. I'm not down with the New World Order and all of that. But yeah, interesting stuff. Meanwhile, speaking of interesting stuff, we have a really interesting experience here in Miriam Delicado. And here she is telling us what it's all about as far as abductions and stuff like that goes.
Just this morning, I was writing for my for my newsletter this week, and I was talking about disclosure a little bit. Okay, so this kind of ties in. So, God particle and disclosure, and what I was expressing in in this article that I was writing is that the most powerful information that comes from, quote, extraterrestrials is not actually about the craft and what they look like, but it is more about the information of who we are, how we're existing, how we have the potential to exist, okay? And remembering that we are these multidimensional beings that can tap into this powerful technology and be able to use it to manifest, quote, miracles. But here's the thing, is it really a miracle? Because a miracle implies that it is coming from the impossible. And I would say miracles are actually the manifestation of that God particle type of energy, where there's massive transformation or change or manifestation that takes place because you are able to understand the God particle, how it works, and that energy of how it relates to everything around you.
Okay, I'll let you watch the full interview at your leisure. But you can see how those two segments go together. The Testica community and this other dimensional technology and the miraculous abilities that she's kind of talking about here. And she says that information is coming from the beings themselves. And maybe they're even advancing this idea that that would be a better way to live. They certainly seem concerned about the environment and our nuclear weapons and energy, at least to go by the change that many experiencers undergo after their experiences begin. But yeah, let me know what you think about that, guys. I think that's just super, super intriguing. And yeah, I think that we do need a better way forward, and we're not living it at the moment. Oh yeah. Meanwhile, the adrenaline rush when the Apophis asteroid visits us in 2029. yeah. Look how close this is going to come, guys. This is insane. When Apophis comes, it's going to be a close call. Yeah, look at that. Holy jeez, you guys. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm building my bunker. Guys. Let me know what you think about it all in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. That'd be great. Smash the like button, the subscribe button, the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. Love to see you guys there. And by the way, thank you guys so much for 13K. That's awesome. You rock. If you want to rock on even more, you can become a channel member. See the link below. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos on the channel. I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.